all saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
I mean, who wants to go first?
Well,
we started the episode?
Yeah. I like all the shit we already just said. Keep that shit in.
Oh.
So, okay. So, I enjoy Guardians. My first thought after seeing it was, man, that was a good movie. They didn't hold me this time like they've done in I feel like maybe 3 or 4 out of the last 8 or so. I don't know. I'd have to really sit down and think about it. But I also resigned to the position that I don't necessarily need to go see them in theaters right now for the foreseeable future until there's a string of greatness that I see. Because to me, it's been either mid or waste of my time or good with a couple exceptions, which is Shang-Chi to me is great. Wakanda Forever to me is great. But other than those two that come to mind right now, it's been like Eternals. I could have saw that at home. So it's not bad, but I could have saw that at home. And Eternals has grown on me. I'll be very honest about that. It's grown on me. It's kind of not as good, but it's kind of like The Last Jedi. and it's I know how to fix this movie. It's a beautiful movie. I know how to fix it. Here's what you do. You got the right bones for it, but here's what you need to do to fix it to make me enjoy it like you intended. It's too big, it's too long, it's convoluted, all that stuff, whatever. But I compare it to The Last Jedi in the sense that you can see that the direction is good. There's some quality stuff. They hired a good team of actors, but there's a disconnect somewhere, and that kind of happens throughout. I feel like the last couple phases.
I got a question for you though.
Go ahead.
So when you talk about you can see the movies at home, right? How does that work with spoilers?
No, that is the thing. That would be my only concern. However, I'll be honest. Wakanda Forever, I said, was still great to me. Half of the movie had already been spoiled for me going into it. I knew about it, and I saw that. Huh?
Would you have enjoyed it more if you didn't know anything?
Probably, but again, it doesn't take away from its greatness. It's still great. I love that movie. It's top 10 Marvel for me. Mm-hmm. It's because for me, it's okay. There's two. I'm not going to go off on tangent, but it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Namor, all that stuff. It's a great movie. But I knew Angela Bassett was going to die. I knew about that. I knew how it was going to end. And again, didn't ruin it for me. Didn't ruin the experience at all. Now, it would have hit harder on first view if I hadn't known that. But again, for that, it's just more so the process of how you nail it. Because you got to think about the rewatchable shit. You got to play in the rewatchable. All right, so I know how everything's going to happen. And I still fucking enjoyed this fucking movie.
So
great performances, all that shit.
You're taking away from your own first watch experience.
And, I agree. I agree with you.
You're rewatching it.
I 100% agree with you. I won't try to do that again. I read a leak and I was I just wanted to see what that experience would be.
He went out of his way.
Oh yeah.
I read a leak.
Messages back and forth.
Yeah, no, I read a leak. But anyway, so I say that to say Guardians was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was, to me, it didn't reach the heights of Guardians 1. And it's not, Guardians 2 isn't a low, but it's more so in the middle in terms of the Marvel cinematic universe. So, but it's above Guardians 2, but not as high as Guardians 1. I enjoyed it. My critique would probably be maybe I just don't like Chris Pratt, or I don't like him, or I don't like the character of Star-Lord. And also, I felt like his entire storyline was unnecessary, and the way it ended, when they did the thing where they were like, oh, I thought he might actually die. I was like, I didn't care, because it was the whole movie we've been talking about Rocket, and it's this depressed dude finna die. I was like, we spent this whole movie worried about Rocket, and y'all didn't use it to bring Rocket back to life and then play us and then think he was gonna kill, he was gonna die at the end. Like, no, nobody cares about I didn't care about Star-Lord at that point in the movie. Like, I don't give a fuck about Star-Lord. Like, who the fuck is Star-Lord? But that's probably like my critique in that I didn't really care about him at all.
I enjoyed that part.
I didn't like his storyline, and I didn't honestly. If you get rid of him and Zoe Saldana's character, Gamora, I probably like the movie more. And I thought this was her best performance as Gamora. I just also felt she was unnecessary.
All right. Well, I liked how they started off the movie, like with the scene that we saw in the trailers, like when we all thought he was gonna die and shit. I liked how they started off the movie with that. Like that kind of like
you mean when they're holding him
down?
Like
when they were holding him, walking through, and I'm like, all right, my guard's down a little bit. Cool, he's not dying here. He still might die, but just not here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with like everybody dying, bro. That's
what do you mean?
Like Star-Lord and Gamora, like, they don't need to die.
No, I don't think they need to die. I just didn't care about their storyline. It was irrelevant. I don't think they need to die at all. But I just didn't like. It was like, I don't know. I felt like so it's a 2-hour, 20-minute movie. I felt like 2 hours of it was like, I really care about Rocket, and 20 minutes was like, hey, but don't forget, we got Star-Lord and Gamora over here too. And you remember that storyline? They loved each other. Don't you remember? Like, yeah. And it was just, I just didn't give a shit about it.
It could be important later.
It could be, but I just didn't care. I didn't care about it.
You don't care about it now, but you will again later, and then you'll come back.
I won't, because I hope they don't bring them back.
No, there's clearly just a disconnect. Like, can I go? I want to go because
it's not like a turn thing. Just jump in.
Look, if we're gonna put in far as rankings or anything, I do want to start with what Keem you said about Eternals, because I think that's important as far as in the realm of what we're seeing with the MCU, just overall right now, right? To me, there's like almost a 3-step process when it comes to these movies. There is, like you said, the decision about whether or not you want to go to the theaters or watch it at home. The only reason for some of these movies that I ever go to the theaters is because of the spoiler aspect of it. Mm-hmm. In the conversation at large that happens, where all the YouTube videos comes out, all the podcasts that come out, that you want to be part of the conversation, want to be able to enjoy that stuff and do that. This is the only reason I go. Like, I've never gone to an Ant-Man movie and been like, God damn, I could have just watched this at fucking home. There's nothing with the effects or anything that are going on right now that would have taken away from the experience of me just being home to watch this shit. The Eternals actually is a movie that I'm actually really glad that I saw it in theaters and actually drove out to the Air and Space Museum to see it, because I do think to this day it is the most beautifully shot MCU movie maybe ever, in the sense of just the way that everything looked on that screen was just immaculate. Yep. So there's that aspect. That's step one, right? Is whether or not I even want to go to the theater to watch this thing. And most of the time I feel pressured because of the spoiler aspect. Number two is you do the initial watch. The initial watch, especially with a lot of these movies, is that you have your visceral feeling as you're going through it. It's kind of even hard to judge exactly where it is. You see the movie on the initial watch, because they're dealing with a lot of stuff from an emotional standpoint. Like, these are characters within the MCU that we've been dealing with since 2008 in some regards, that are all part of these vast storylines and stuff. And all the directors so far have known how to tug at certain heartstrings or turn the key as far as from an emotional standpoint. That kind of clouds a lot of what I think, at least the initial watch. So then it goes into the third step, which is the rewatch. Sometimes I do an immediate rewatch if there's stuff that I'd be like, hey, I really like this. I need to make sure that I like this. And then there's like the rewatch over time. And the rewatch over time is also critical because of the fact that you have all these characters and all these storylines that are kind of fitting each other. And they introduce this character to this thing and they do this with this thing. And I need to see how it fits within the overall narrative, right? So like, and sometimes it just doesn't hit as hard after a certain point in time. Like No Way Home, I'll be the first to tell everybody, No Way Home does not hit anywhere close to where it did the first couple times that I watched that movie. It just doesn't for me. I go through and I pretty much fast forward to the spots that I want to get to in that movie compared to actually sitting down and watching it all the way through, because I don't care that much. It's not to say it's a bad film. It's just on a rewatchability standpoint, the way I'm feeling about it, it just like or in some aspects, the way that it fits within the continuity of the entire MCU is where I have some of the most problems with. Eternals is another one. The more further away we are from the Eternals, every rewatch gets worse for me. And the reason it gets worse is that I'm wondering, are we ever going to talk about the Celestial that's in the fucking ocean that nobody wants to mention? Or the fact that we have a Celestial that showed up and fucking kidnapped a bunch of people in front of everybody? Like,
so
are we not getting back to this?
So apparently they're going to address that in New World Order, which is going to be changed. No, I mean, it's not a spoiler, but apparently they're going to address it in Captain America 4.
I hope so, because the thing is like there's shit that happens in some of these movies where you're just like, all right, so where does this fit in what's happening with the timeline? Why aren't this thing mean this thing? Are we ever gonna see Harry Styles? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know. I don't know. But the Eternals is a lot of things great that I did like initially watching. Barry Keoghan is just great. I love Brian. I get his name fucked up. It's either Henry Tyree or Tyree Henry. Which is it? Brian Tyree Henry Tyree. He's great. I love him in it, even though the whole I gave him nuclear bombs, whatever. All right, well, I'm getting off court. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, to me, is the best movie the MCU has put out since Endgame. And I say that being that, like, when I look through the 3 steps that I look at when it comes to, like, the rewatchability and all kinds of stuff, I look at this as almost a self-contained story. And I love it for that. It's like the Guardians 3 volumes, I can watch back to back to back, watch all the arcs of each one of these characters that I'm experiencing, and be completely okay, regardless of whatever happened in the rest of the MCU, which is kind of hard to do with the rest of the MCU. That's
where I disagree with you.
What do you mean?
Only on the aspect in which the part that I didn't care about. The part, because I agree with you on most of that, like 90% of that. But that where they fucked it up is the Gamora thing.
I'll talk about that. So they
fucked it up on the Gamora thing for me because it feels different, right? It's like that's not what we.
But see that,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
but that's my criticism that I have for like Infinity War and Endgame. Is that my biggest criticisms for Infinity War and Endgame are mostly the way that they treat the Guardians characters. And it's something you even see James Gunn has been open about, that he's like, I don't like what they did with some of this stuff. Like, it would have been my choice to do this or to do that with the characters. Like, to James Gunn, it's sacrilege that Star-Lord would have punched Thanos. He thinks that, like, James Gunn is on record saying that Star-Lord would have shot Gamora when she asked him to. That's the Star-Lord's character that I was building. Like, that would have happened. Or that you, when you think about that and the tenet of that and what it means to the character, is when you talk about like the Last Jedi-fication of stuff, is I look at Endgame and Infinity War is almost kind of like not fully my Guardians characters. And you know, when I ranked the MCU, Guardians was my #1 movie in all of the MCU. So like these are characters that I'm in absolute love with. I love Rocket. I love Star-Lord. I love these guys wholeheartedly. Rocket was always my favorite character, and there's a scene in this movie where Lila in the afterlife whispers, "It was always your story." And it hit hard for me because it was like, to me, that was always what I wanted to see. And I could see that, like, from James Gunn's standpoint, the reason he came back to do this is he thought it extremely important to show Rocket's origin story. He thought that it was the most primary thing that he had to show was Rocket's origin story. And that to me hit. The Gamora aspect of it, which is just trying to make sense of what we saw in Endgame and Infinity War, which to me, like I said, I think they fucked up a bit in Infinity War Endgame, just trying to make things work within the MCU universe compared to where these characters should really be. But that, it's almost like when you're asking J.J. Abrams and the last Skywalker to clean up what The Last Jedi did. There's a bit of that. And I find it successful because it hit on all the notes that I had emotionally. Like, you're right. To me, this was Zoe Saldana's finest performance in all of the MCU. To get us back that Gamora that I wish we had more time with, that version of Gamora, and also the juxtaposition of like watching Volume 2's Gamora to this Gamora and seeing where it is they're different, and seeing what it is it did for Star-Lord and his character. We've been following Star-Lord and his the dealing with his mom's death, his father's son's sort of relationship that he had with Yondu in Volume 2 gets brought to light mostly, and what you have as far as what's going on with Ego. And you see this character time and time again, as Mantis says in this, is you're jumping from fucking lily pad to lily pad. Like, you're always just searching for something. And you see how much it wrecks him that the Gamora that he was actually going to be able to go do anything with now ceases to exist, and how much he's lost in the sauce on that. The idea of opening the movie with him being a fucking drunken asshole that like even Thor acknowledges he is, huh?
That's like what Thor. That I didn't like that either, only because they're so like that's not a Guardians problem. That's an MCU problem. It's
I go Tony more than I do anybody as far as
it's just more. It's like, bro, we just saw this. Like we saw the depressed guy. Like we just saw this in the movie two, three movies ago. I don't need to see Star-Lord depressed, but it's a thing. It's a thing that happens. I get that.
But that part of it though, you have to forgive it for this. There's a reason you have to forgive that. If it wasn't for the James Gunn controversy, this movie comes out directly after Endgame, right? Which is, This is the first time we're seeing these characters other than in Thor that they exist as a joke at the beginning of the fucking movie, pretty much. We haven't seen these characters and what they've been dealing with since post everything that happened at Endgame. And every character has had to have their opportunity to deal with the aftermath of that. It does feel weird. It does feel like, oh, well, haven't we gone past this point? But I think that's more of a timeline of when the movies come out than it is to have to do with anything with the story itself. Like all of them are still suffering the ramifications of what it is that they've seen post Thanos. Like we had, how many Marvel TV shows are we dealing with where an entire storyline or the entire run of the series is what are we dealing with post snap, right?
That's where they dropped the ball in the interconnectivity for me, because it's like, I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. It's like, so you put Thor Love and Thunder out, and like Star-Lord was great in that. He gave Thor some good advice. Hey, your friends are always, your family, they're always there, but whatever he said to Star-Lord. And then you're going to tell me the next time I see Star-Lord, he's drunken and depressed. And you know what I'm saying? It's just like, all right, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if it had been different, like if it had been swapped, that makes more sense to me. And again, I think it's the point that you're making, but that makes more sense to me if he's like, he comes out of that and can give Thor that advice.
So a time
you can't be where they say he is in this movie and depressed and sad over Gamora and all this, and he's always blah blah, and he's always drunk, and so we always got to take him back, and you know that's the only time, and you know, and like be like he was fine in Thor: Love and Thunder. He was fine. He's normal.
I think that's what's easiest for me is that the way that I look at The Last Jedi is almost something that didn't happen. I personally, within my brain, retcon the things that I saw in Last Jedi, or the way that I'm personally, to some degree, cherry picking and retconning certain things that have happened in the MCU to the Guardians of the Galaxy characters. Because I really do think that James Gunn's version of these characters has been, in my opinion, some of the strongest stuff that Marvel has ever done. And anytime that they're in the hands of someone else, you're getting a lesser than product. You're getting the Marvelification of stuff, which always annoys me. So like, even though in Endgame, like the things that ring truest in Endgame and Infinity War is James Gunn writing the dialogue, right? Which is something that happened. They allowed him to write the dialogue, at least for the fucking characters. And it's like, okay, the dialogue hits correctly. You can always notice with the Guardians guys compared to the rest of the MCU, which is something we'll talk about a little bit, but there's a movie that happens in the MCU that I think forever changes the MCU for the worst, which is Civil War. And the reason I say Civil War in that sense is that what they end up doing is making everybody like a mini version of Tony Stark, which is the humor in the MCU is now who can have the quippiest comeback. It's not actual comedy anymore. It almost feels like a Family Guy version of comedy, which is like everyone's hitting the same beat in comedy throughout the rest of the MCU, where the Guardians are the only ones in which they have different characters being extremely different in the way that they're bringing comedic timing, and the combination of those characters together are what makes it happen. Like there are so many times that I look at Doctor Strange and I'm like, Doctor Strange, you're not usually that big of a smartass in the fucking comics, buddy. Like you're starting to sound a little Tony Starkish. It's like everyone has to have the quick witty comeback or 100 nicknames for X person. How many times are we gonna hear that over again, right? It always is that. Like I have a quick nickname for you, bud. I do like the Guardians characters, to me, always kind of step outside of that. And like, just overall, as far as this movie, I just thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, if I'm ranking the Guardians movies, this is my number 2 behind Guardians 1. I just think that it hit on every emotional beat, absolutely. I am not ashamed to say I cried like a little bitch in that fucking movie theater over something that just kind of brought it out of me. The stuff with Rocket and his pals, fucking Floor, Lila, and Teefs. Look, sometimes you give like Steven Spielberg a little bullshit for being saccharine or like pulling on the emotional heartstrings in like a cheap way. It might have felt like I was a little angry at James Gunn at certain points of it, like you're pulling this out. But then it was like, no, fucker. Oh my God, I'm actually feeling this. You son of a bitch. And I couldn't help myself. And the only reason it stopped me from crying when I saw it the second time was that the waitress at Alamo dropped off my refill of soda at the right time where I was able to catch myself back.
I got a question. How do y'all feel about the villain of the movie?
Phenomenal.
Oh, so I did want to speak about that. He's a good villain. I like that he was different in terms of the other kind of good villains where it's like he's intimidating and fearsome and stuff. And like he was a little bit of that, but he was more so like a deranged scientist. And it's like he felt different from other good villains of the MCU past. Because all of the other good villains, like you talk about was it Heya from Ragnarok? You talk about, I guess, if you want to count Winter Soldier and the Winter Soldier, Zemo in Civil War, obviously Thanos. People think Loki's a good villain, and like so on and so forth. And it's like outside of Loki, most of them kind of follow the same thing. It's like they're intimidating and really good villains, and they blow things up, and they don't care to kill you, and all that stuff. And he's a little bit of that too. But he was like that was played more so as like. He's a sociopath. Like he's a fucking sociopath. Like he's like something is wrong with this man, and it's Rocket's fault because he should have fucking killed the guy, but he fucked him up with his claws and shit. But I like this brand of villain. I thought it was good. I also honestly wish they've also like selfishly saved the actor for something like more. Like I need to see him come back and do a lot more. Like he's too good of an actor to only give him that to do.
I'm hearing, and this might just be bullshit, but I am hearing that because of the reception from him playing this villain, there is some talk about whether or not, if the Jonathan Majors thing doesn't work out, we get to spend a little more time with with this particular villain, which I think
he'd be great. He'd be great as Kang.
Yeah, I do.
Great.
I think that there is something high evolutionary, and I think it fits too. And we don't actually see him die in this movie. The villain to me was top notch. I adored this. It's one of my favorite villains in all of the MCU. I'm not prepared to rank him, but he hit all the notes, and I do appreciate a movie in which you don't always have to have the universes at stake. We can keep this not necessarily small potatoes, but we can keep it emotionally resonant potatoes.
Mm-hmm. I was thankful for that as well. Yes.
Right. So like there is this element.
I was so thankful for that.
We don't have to. He's not trying to kill everybody. He's like, I have certain things that I'm trying to do. And now there's a personal stake and there's an emotional heftiness to the core issue in the movie, which I loved. Is like, it doesn't have to be, they don't always have to keep topping it as far as what the villain is, or because you reach a point. I mean, how do you get bigger than Thanos? Like, chill the fuck out. We ain't got to do that all the goddamn time. This dude has something that he wants to perfect, and to see the childishness or the selfishness of his ego was just awesome to see. It kept things grounded in a way that I loved. I absolutely love that. Just him, how is it that I created you and you solved this problem? You see the pettiness in that, and the ego that's involved in that, and you understand it.
The best line that he said to me was, he's like, there is no God. I just stepped in. I was like, ooh.
That's great. You see the ego just falling off of him. In the way that everybody has to talk to him and treat him. And the fact is that he does have, I mean, pardon the pun, it fits it perfectly, a God complex. You understand it. You get it completely. Yeah, I just thought the performance overall, maybe he was yelling a bit too much, maybe a little less yelling, but I liked it. It was deranged. It was awesome. I really, really appreciate it. It was the best villain that it's the best new villain that I've seen, and them flesh out the entire arc in a way in which was satisfying to me. The where I look at like Gore the God Butcher is always going to be resonating in my head, but the way that they did not do that character justice through the script of that movie will forever be a huge blemish on it.
So, who would you say was your favorite character
in this, like new or just overall?
Overall, in this, like
Rocket.
This video. I mean, this movie.
Rocket. I mean, I do. Like it's a Rocket movie. Like you open up the movie with an acoustic version of Creep, where you're seeing Rocket listen to a song in which, when you watch the other two Guardians movies and you see the way that Rocket talks about himself to a certain degree, like you can hear that there is that internal monologue that just resonates through that goddamn song. Some people might say it's a little on the nose. I thought it was perfect as far as the acoustic version, especially just a little thing off the beaten path. And Rocket's always been my favorite character. Like every time that I'm watching Rocket, there's a part of me that wishes I could see Bradley Cooper in the booth, like in a little picture-in-picture, just doing what he's doing. Because I think the voice work is awesome.
They shared a video. Did you?
No, I did not. I haven't seen it. I've seen video of him in the booth. I haven't seen it for this movie. And I did hear that as far as like the young Rocket voice, that was Sean Gunn, which is also awesome. And Sean Gunn also plays can never remember the character. Krieg? Whatever. The dude that has Mando's.
I remember.
He's great. Yeah, I'd always go Rocket as far as my favorite, but Star-Lord also, I thought that Chris Pratt did a really, really good job in this movie. And then Zoe Saldana did a really great job. I mean, I'm gonna go Rocket because everybody else is kind of a tie for me. Because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, everybody had their moments to shine, or at least to show a character arc to some degree that I really, really appreciated. I loved Drax in this movie. I love the way they played on the character. It was just dope.
Drax.
Drax was cool. Drax was dope.
Yeah, like when you think of Bautista, like you don't think like him dancing the way he was, or like learning the kids' language as quickly as he did. Like that shit was funny.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm tearing up. When he starts dancing to the Dog Days Are Over, I tear up. I don't give a fuck anyway. When he starts,
like it resonates. Yeah,
it just resonates like a motherfucker. Holy shit! I am tearing up.
As somebody with a child, that was a great moment. I didn't tear up. Great moment. My favorite character.
Tampons.
Yeah, give your thing a second to buffer. You're coming a little choppy.
You hear me say tampons? I need to watch that movie again.
I guess I need to watch that movie.
Yo, that shit was so funny.
All right, you might be back if you want to give it another shot.
Back. God damn, that was funny.
Okay, but Groot is probably my favorite character. I think Groot is the heart of the Guardians. And each movie, especially like the first one where he sacrifices, well, the other Groot, I guess there are two different Groots technically, sacrifices himself to save everybody. Like, we are Groot. Oh, like, oh, Groot. And you get Teen Groot, and now we like Billy Blank's Groot. Like, I love Groot, and maybe it's just because I love the Fast and Furious franchise. I don't know, and Dominic Rep, but I love Groot, and he's part of the team. He doesn't have the same comic relief, but he can be the emotional, like. We use him to set up like this event that he's very heartfelt, and I appreciate it. I really love those moments. Who's probably Drax is probably second.
All right, tampons.
Enough praise. In my opinion, her character development over the movie. More than
tampons.
Why did you put your finger? Oh, okay.
I thought a hand signal for tampon. Maxi pad, tampon.
Tampons just work, bro. Wait, I don't know if they work, but of course they work. They got to. But
I used to shove tampons in my nose for nosebleeds. They work. I had a really bad nosebleed problem. Yeah, it was.
We're gonna take a moment of silence for that. Okay.
What the fuck are you talking about? It's a cotton thing that fits a nose perfectly to stop bleeds. What the fuck?
I never did it, but it's common.
No, it works. I used to have nosebleeds so bad they wanted to do surgery on me at one point. I'd agree with you a lot on what I could hear at the end. You trailed off a bit, but Groot being the heart of the Guardians, I think you're right, and I think that also is another thing that I absolutely loved as far as the through line through the movies, and in this one. You can tell like Groot and Star-Lord and the way they play back and forth where they don't even need to say anything. Like, hey, Groot, you know what to do with these, right? Oh, yeah, I got you. Straight. Yeah, I got this. We need to communicate it. Like, I got it.
It's on my hip. It's on my hip. I got you.
We're straight. We got this. And at the end, of course, the thing with we're finally now can understand Groot as an audience. At least that's the way that I interpreted it, where you hear him say, I love you. I did wish, even though I'm not a fan of the Fast and the Furious, I was hoping so much I heard him say family at some point.
All right, Dom.
If it would have happened, I would have hated it and loved it at the same time. Like, if he said, I love you, family, I would have lost my shit in the theater. I'm not going to lie. I would have absolutely lost my shit.
So that one word would have made you lose your shit.
That would have been funny. I know that they can't, it would have taken us out of the movie in that moment, but I would have absolutely appreciated it. I would admit that.
That is what James said, though, in terms of like them understanding. He was like, no, like this is them finally understanding Groot. Everybody understands stuff like that.
Right. Good. So I'm glad I interpreted that correctly. Yeah, man, I really, really, really think that this is a movie that's going to get better with every rewatch, be able to watch it within.
Oh, wait.
What?
One of the best parts we didn't even discuss yet. Their use of music. Like when you see it with like a certain crowd and Reasons comes on, it's not solid in there. We all singing that shit. You can tell somebody got a good voice.
The fight scene for Reasons was awesome. And my favorite probably is the hallway battle. With that might be my favorite scene in the movie. But I just think it's up there with any other action scene I've seen in the MCU. I just think the hallway fight was awesome.
And I like when they paused, it was like, oh shit, like some shit really like going down. And then they resumed the shit like, hey.
I will say, as far as soundtracks go, if I'm ranking the Guardian soundtrack, this is number 3 for me. I'd still go Volume 1 has the best soundtrack.
Yeah. I was
No. What
I'm just saying.
Like seeing it in the theater with a certain group of people and everybody breaks out in song was cool as fuck. And I went
to a black ass theater. That's what you're telling us.
Where else should you go? Where the fuck else should you go? Okay. All right. The shit was great.
You caught the After Denny special at the Hood fucking movie theater. I got you.
Gang.
In terms of the music, Guardians 1 still has a soundtrack to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say for the third one didn't have for me that the first movie had was a moment where the music kind of took over. And it was really only about the reason great, but like fighting is so well choreographed and stuff. It's kind of like fights about putting the music to me anyway. But the first one, like there are a few moments where the things that were this what's intro, when he's winning, he's going to get the little ball for the first time, or like Baby Group at the end when they do ABC. Those are the two moments in the music in the first one that stand out to me. The second one, because I love that fucking song. And if you don't, and when it comes on at the end,
chain, brother, the chain.
Yes, Playwood my chain. Yes.
Sidebar: if there's any movie that needs to be made about the production of a song or an album in the history of music, it's that one. Fleetwood Mac Rumors is one of the greatest albums ever made. And the fact that they made it in the first place is still one of the greatest stories in the history of music. And it needs to be a movie. It needs to happen now. It needed to happen fucking yesterday. And The Chain is an all-time song. I've said it for so many. It's been the theme song for so many of my breakups. It is the shit.
Maybe you should stop listening to that song.
Fuck you. You should. Do you know what the song we're talking about?
Yes, but you said you said it was a theme for all your breakups. I'm like, no, stop listening to it. Stop breaking up with people.
No, I mean, as you're saying, it's like when the breakups happen, the chain resonates because it's like, you told me you never fucking break it, but you broke it.
And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you sing. No, I get why you think. I get why KDot. I'm on KDot on that. I understand.
Yeah, I tell you about the breakup where Tyler the Creator's Puppet was the theme song from it. That one sucked.
All right. So do y'all have anything else from the movie that like is sticking out that you want to discuss at all? If not, I'm gonna ask you for your rating.
I do. How do I want to say this? James Gunn, I have to applaud in being able to still be his own version or his own auteur, and to bring something that should have. Look, when they first did the Guardians 1 announcement, I was like, okay, this is where the MCU is gonna fail. I was number one in the this is not gonna work. These characters are not enough well known. They hit. Like Iron Man was already such a like weird place to go to kick off a universe that was so unexpected, and the fact that it landed was sort of like, all right, dude, y'all already kind of won the lottery with that. You're really pushing it with this one, and the fact that they landed the plane on it, to me, is still just it is still outside of the first Iron Man. To me, it's an absolute monumental achievement, and I really do think that the MCU, we've had conversations about whether or not what the future and everything is holding with it. I will say that like I said, this to me has been the best movie I've seen in quite some time within the MCU. And I wish that they would understand that while we do love Avengers team ups, take time to set up these characters and to work on the stories within their own universes to a certain degree. I think that that's where Guardians has really shined through, is to stay true to the characters and to not let the characters be just IP for whatever fucking else is coming. I think that Gunn has done an amazing job with that, and I think that as far as a capper to a movie series, this is one of the all-timers to me. This is a dude that really knew these characters, saw them all the way through, and just nailed it. And I think that that's an incredible feat that needs to be understood. And although I don't understand how a James Gunn Superman will work, after seeing this, sign me up, take my money. Gunn can do no wrong.
I liked how at the end, like people were going in separate ways, but it still left the door open if at some point they were coming back or to be a part of it, where like nobody actually like died.
Sort of. I think there's like, to me, it's like, I don't expect to see Nebula or Drax again. I do probably expect to see Star-Lord because of the post-credit,
yeah.
Which to me was the only thing that kind of took me out of the movie. It felt like, I heard somebody else say this. I wish I could give credit to him, but the second stinger felt more like we got told there was a contract negotiation. It was like it was more of a contract reveal than it was anything else. In the sense of like, I thought Chris Pratt was gonna leave, and now it's like, oh no, he's gonna do more. And it's like, oh, okay. And then like as far as the new Guardians, like I think that can absolutely fit in and slot in to do anything. I know that we didn't talk about at all Adam Warlock, which I also thought they did an amazing job on. Just quick thing as far as when you have these superheroes or villains or anything that are totally outside the realm of anything when it comes from a power dynamic, it was nice to see that you build in a fatal flaw with him, which is that he's a fucking moron, right? And it's like, I love that. I thought it was really creative to do. I feel as though you get to a point in the MCU a lot of times where you end up having a Doctor Strange 2 issue, which is just, we have to convince them not to do this thing because there's no other way we can stop them from doing it. Like, I think you get to that point. So I do like that they built that into the character where it was like, and it was a flaw in which, okay, totally could see it. Totally see it.
Does that relate to the comics? I don't know, like, his
Warlock's not a dummy.
Okay. So they've just made that up for the movie.
They basically nerfed him to make him be able to not kill them all. Like, because in real lore, he can kill them all
easily. But they pulled him out of the pod early. Number one, fits the story, right? Fits the story within the thing. Number two, we see how the Sovereign kind of work. We see the High Evolutionary's dynamic with the Sovereign. You see that he's got the mommy issues. You can see that he's like a small child.
And he saw his mom die in front of him.
Right. Like, those things to me work for Warlock in the sense of the way they're building that character. And I think James Gunn did a really good job. But all right, here's baby Warlock, and I'm out before he gets too powerful. I got nothing else I can do.
Yeah, and he's like dependent on the Guardians right now. Okay.
He's a Guardian.
And then comics off with Thanos, like, a lot.
Yeah.
So he was running with Thanos in the comics.
With him or against him. But
he's fighting Thanos in the comics. Okay, got you. Okay. So how do y'all like, what do you rank it? Like 1 to 10? And then also, like, is this where do you have it in, like, in terms of the top 10 of the MCU? If it's there.
It cracked top 7.
So I'll go first.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Apologies.
Here we go.
You say 1 out of 10?
Yeah.
Probably a 7.3. Give him a good 7.3. In terms of top 10 MCU, it's not there for me, but it's probably on the cusp. It's probably like 14, 13. I thought it completely out. Like I said, because it's better than Guardians 2, but not as good as Guardians 1. I feel like probably, if you ask me right now to put a gun to my head to name 10 MCU better movies that are better, I could do that. But yeah, so probably like 12, in that 12, 14 range for me.
Okay. KDot.
So I'm looking at my ranking that I gave last time, and as I was saying, there's like a 3-step process to me going through and really knowing where it's what. So No Way Home, I had at number 6, and I can 100% say that was recency bias after watching that movie and how high it made me feel on watching the Spider-Man kind of connect. Because it's not 6, it's just not. So if I'm pushing that back up the. Fuck you. I'm pushing this back up the list. I'm gonna put No Way Home at 10, which means Black Panther's out, and I'm putting Guardians at number 6 to me in all of the MCU. So that my top 10 looks is this. It would be No Way Home at 10, Winter Soldier at 9, Endgame at 8, Doctor Strange at 7, Guardians 3 at 6, Iron Man 1 at 5, The Avengers number 1 at 4, Thor Ragnarok at 3, Infinity War at 2, and Guardians Volume 1 at number 1.
All right, Keem, before you respond, I want to try something. I already know your internet gonna fuck up. So what I want you to do is to mute. I'm gonna call you and you can yell at this dude. And we can hear everything. Cool. I'm like, no. We're not gonna waste this opportunity.
Ready.
You ready? All right, there you go.
All right, there you go.
Oh, wait, you gotta mute me too on the computer.
Fucking amateur hour.
Or just turn the volume down.
That's what he meant.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I think it's muted all the way. It should be muted.
Yeah, we're good.
You good?
Okay. Listen, the thing is, I respect KDot's opinion so much because he has good taste. He really does. Dude has good taste in most things. And honestly, when you listen to his top 10, you might think he was stupid.
Fuck you. Piece of
You
shit.
might think he's autistic or something.
I am?
Because
That's not
doesn't
right.
make he has a 2008 Iron Man in his top 5. That's fucking criminal. I love Iron Man. It's a good movie. It's an origin story that wasn't. It's an origin story that's not. If you consider some of the origin stories that came after it, it's not that there are better origin stories. And beyond that, though, the man said he took Black Panther out of his top 10 to put Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He didn't put Wakanda Forever in there either. Like, is he fucking insane? He just likes fucking space shit. That's what it sounds like to me.
The Ironheart
just
character's
like fucking
dumb.
things that go boom and bam. He fucking likes. He sounds like he's fucking the Michael Bay of reviewers. He's
Fuck you.
Fucking fly, and people do shit, and white women in bikinis. That's what he fucking likes. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. He's better than this. He is better than this. He should be better than this, but he hasn't been in terms of his ranking in the MCU, and I'm disappointed in him. I'm so disappointed. And it's a fucking travesty. Because bro, what are we talking about here? Like, come on, okay. Guardians 3, even if you would have put it in his top 7, I could allow it because, like I said, 12 to 14 range. You want to put it like 6. I'm gonna give you 6. But the shit that he got in front of it, it's like 2 of them. It's like a 2-pack of ass. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Did you watch the movie? Like, when was the last time that you watched the movie? Do you watch other movies? It's not that good. It's not that good. What are you talking about? But I said to say.
It's a dumb motherfucker. Say it's on the cusp. It's between 12 and 14.
I said that to say. I really disagree with his opinion. But it's just an opinion. Everybody has, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. So,
yeah, mine is right.
He can do his thing. But, I think he's way far. I think he's off the ledge. I think this is where, he kind of, goes off the ledge. That's his thing. He has some unique interests and unique tastes. And I think that's where he his bias kind of comes in terms of those unique. I text this when we were talking about it in the chat, but he probably thinks Star Wars has 3 good movies. More than 3 good movies, and then he named the 3 that were good, and we kind of disagree on 1, but I'll give him that. So he's not off, but I don't see it. I think.
Do you have him on speakerphone? Can he hear me?
List and think that he was that he takes medicine on a consistent basis.
I do. I'm slightly autistic and I do take medicine, so go fuck yourself.
He said, well. This man said, well, yo, my heart hurt.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh, shit.
All right, up to the angle.
All right.
Fuck off.
All right, so for me, right, I got this movie.
Black Panther's not a top 10 movie.
Wait, let me. I got this movie at a and between an 8.5 and a 9, right? The reason why is because it hit everything that I look for in a movie. Keem, you missed the last part where KDot described people who watch movies and who don't. I'm not gonna rehash that again.
People that don't watch movies are dumb. The type of movies you watch can be smarter people watch movies. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Smart people out there doing shit. But all right.
Look. No. It's what you're doing. If you're curing cancer, okay.
It's my turn.
If you're watching fucking sports, then no.
It's my turn. All right. So I got it between an 8.5 and a 9, right? because it hit on everything that you kind of look for in a movie. Like every single emotion, it hit. And at the end of it, you still like you felt good. You learned something from it, kind of, but it was cool to me. And I got it. I definitely have it in the top 10. I could say top 5. You know, like how like people say like when people talk about like rappers are like, oh yeah, they're in my top 5, and then you're like, all right, name your 5, and then you name like 8 people. It's kind of like that.
But it's in your top 10.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But I mean,
think,
like,
see,
it's not.
and this is how I know he's right now, because usually he subscribes to the if James says it's good,
Yeah, no.
There are
Obviously
exceptions to
bad.
every rule. You can't
fuck
be
you.
that stone-hearted. You
Fuck
gotta
you.
know.
Fuck you. Fuck you. It's like if I agree with them, then it's like, oh shit, James, like this is how it's supposed to be. If I don't agree, then it's like, oh motherfucker, whatever. Like it is what it is, right? But
It sure
yeah,
is.
I look at it like how people talk about when people say like, yeah, like 5 or 8 people are in their top 5. That's kind of like how I'm at with it. But it's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah,
Did you give a rating, KDot?
no, I don't. I think it's hard to get.
real quick.
What?
Oh, you want me to call you back?
You know what you could do if you mute
No.
your audio? You could
Is
call
Black
into the
Panther-
Zoom meeting.
Oh shit, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
If you call into the Zoom
And
meeting, we
just
can get your
like-
live audio,
Yeah.
even if the picture's not jelly.
Yeah, we up here acting like cavemen and shit.
I just wanted to see y'all guys do that because it was entertaining to me.
Yeah, the shit was hilarious, bro. I'm sitting there holding the phone, dying, laughing. My heart is hurting.
There's so much I want to say in response to it, though. So while he's figuring that out, look, overall, there are certain things that I know are controversial as far as my list go. And to answer your question, it's hard for me to give number ratings, especially for these movies.
Just try.
If I were to give it a number rating the way I feel right now, it'd be like a 9, right?
Okay.
So like, but then I look at that, I'm like, all right, so then I look back at my list and I'm like, is everything I had of it a 9 or a 10? I don't think that.
Just specifically this one movie, how do you feel? Fuck everything else.
Yeah, I'd say 9. I'd say 9. It's not perfect, but it's like, so like, if I look at that, I'm like, the reason my list is the way it is that, oh, here we go. So,
But KDot, for like the thing I want to tell you, right, is when I do ratings and rankings and shit like that, it's more so how you feel right now in this moment with just this piece of work, like this piece of art. Like it don't matter like what you feel about something else or whatever. Like I don't want.
It's almost impossible to do that with the MCU. It's just, which is a fundamental issue with it. Is like when it comes to,
because like all connected.
Because I'm like, the thing is like what Keem was talking about earlier when we were talking about the movie is that like the things that either resonate or didn't resonate with him. So like if he looks at the Gamora Star-Lord storyline, right? Mm-hmm. There are parts of it that seemed as though it resonated more for him in Endgame and Infinity War that then don't line up correctly with the way that he feels about it in this.
Yeah, and I can't do it that way.
But it's
like,
impossible not to separate it, right? Because if you're looking at character arcs, you're looking at
That's my
character arcs,
problem.
what'd you say?
Yeah, that's my problem with it. And it's what you pointed out, Kate, is there's no consistency there. Like there's no, like there should be a straight line of consistency there in terms of the character development, all that stuff. But there isn't, because James writes them, like you said, differently than the other writers and directors treated them.
Right. So that to me is the thing where it's like, so like, if you look at my list, you know the way that I feel. I elevate Gunn above pretty much everybody else, right? Like the only people that are touching Gunn to me as far as direction of Marvel movies are the Russos, who I think have their fundamental issues. Number one, like I said, as far as the way that they think of comedy, it to me is just a little off. Also, like the way that Marvel overall did what they did in the last couple of years, which is hire every writer from Rick and Morty to fucking tackle the multiverse. And it's like, okay, Rick and Morty works in the multiverse because it's an animated fucking TV show. There are no limitations in what you can do. It's not going to translate the same way when you have to do things live action wise, which is also another thing as far as sometimes the CGI alone is enough to take you out of a fucking Marvel movie. So there's so many different things that are just, it's weird. It's a weird thing. There's not really anything else you can compare it to. You can't compare it to any other series of movies. Like I can't compare it to James Bond. James Bond does a reset every time there's a new fucking James Bond, right? So I can compare them a little easier as far as the way that I'm ranking things. But the MCU is like, all right, we're gonna loan you these characters to play however you'd like with them, and then I'm gonna bring it back. And what does that mean for the characters? Do I in this movie I'm still doing things based on what you saw the other guys do with them? So it's hard. So like when I do my top 10 list for MCU, I'm looking at a lot of different things. I'm looking at like, to me, there's a risk reward aspect of it in the sense of like, how risky was it for you to fucking do what you did? And did you pull it off in any way? There's a element of just storytelling. Did you hit it? There's a story about acting. There's an entertainment standpoint, right? And there's an emotionality thing. And to me, it's like, if I'm looking across all those lists, it's the same way I feel about, you were talking about best rapper, right? I think the best rapper alive or living or dead is Jay-Z. Why do I think Jay-Z is the greatest rapper alive? Do I think it's because he's the best lyricist of all time? No. Do I think it's because he's the best wordplay of all time? No. Do I think he's the best as far as longevity of all time? I mean, he's up there. But the reason is that if I average everything and you put him in the top 10 to 5 of every fucking category, there's no other rapper that does it.
Consistency.
Right. So like if I'm looking across the line, like I got it. So like Iron Man being in my top 5 is because of what it meant to do Iron Man. To me, it was like, holy shit, and what it was able to do. And what it was able to do as far as the way that Iron Man and the way that Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man, the impact that had on all comic movies, period. Like, to me, that means something. The first Avengers movie, the way that they pulled that fucking off in the first fucking place, just
it's all like it's sliders.
Right, it's the same way, like, but
everybody has their own sliders,
and things change over time too.
That's the thing. There are no sliders with me. I don't give a fuck about Iron Man's impact. I don't give a shit in terms of movies. If I watch it as a film, it's a good film, but it's not top 5 MCU. It's not even close. It's not top 10 MCU. It's a good, solid, decent origin story that, as time has went past, has kind of gotten slightly worse, not like bad worse, but like worse as time has went on, unlike a Batman Begins or, a bunch of other origin stories.
Are we talking about Iron Man?
Yeah.
Oh, see, okay, yeah, no, I just fundamentally disagree with that. The only hole that I have in Iron Man is the villain, but that is an era of which every MCU movie had a problem with the villain.
He was a good villain.
I think that's the weakest part of the movie is the villain.
I don't necessarily disagree with you that that's the weakest part of the movie, but it's just also not that great of a movie. If the villain is the weakest part of the movie, that's fine. But in terms of if I watch Iron Man and I watch Civil War, I'm not fucking watching Iron Man. There's no comparison.
Let's just have this fucking out. Let's just do this because you're gonna keep thinking to fucking bring this movie up. Where do you rank? We're just gonna do this here. Top 3 trilogies in the MCU. Rank them.
Okay, very easy. Captain America, Spider-Man. I think it was Guardians, Thor, Ant-Man.
Yeah, Ant-Man and Thor just.
Actually, Ant-Man, Thor.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Your 4 and 5 are fair. Here's my issue as far as your top 3. Look, Guardians is my number 1, and I understand that there would be pushback as far as that because the only one I think that's really in the conversation to me is Captain America. Spider-Man to me is fine. They haven't had a bad movie, but to me, as far as the stakes and the movies themselves, they're all enjoyable times. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're great films. I just don't. Like I look at Homecoming to me is a little bit better than Far From Home in the sense of. I like what's the fucking villain who almost gets ruined because he's in fucking Venom? Fucking Vulture. I loved Vulture. I loved his storyline as far as Vulture. I thought that was cool, right? I thought it was dope. But I don't ever think the Spider-Man movies get past a certain point Far From Home, I mean, No Way Home does to a certain degree, but I've told you the rewatchability on that to me has fallen off tremendously. Captain America. To me, it's between Captain America and Guardians. And the only reason I put Guardians over Captain America is I don't think Guardians has a bad movie. I legit think the first Captain America is bad. I don't like the film. And
I think probably the worst film in the MCU in my opinion.
You really
arguably. It might not be Thor or the Thor, like the second Thor and then the first Captain America, like they're like really close.
The second Thor is
But,
still the
like-
only movie I've never seen in the MCU. I've never watched Thor: The Dark World. That's the only movie in the MCU I've never watched.
Why not?
I heard enough bad things and I saw the trailer and I was like, I don't even know if I want to subject myself to it because I kind of like Thor as a character.
Man, just watch that shit.
I probably will. I mean, I need to, but I end up rewatching something anyway. But the Captain America. My issue with Captain America is I think Winter Soldier is an unsaleable movie. I don't have any negative to say. The only thing I'll say as far as Winter Soldier is the conversation around it is you have people that think they're smarter than they are when they try to classify it or compare it to spy movies or like Jason Bourne and shit. And I'm just like, come on, it's still an MCU fucking movie. It's great, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to compare it to James Bond or some shit. Civil War to me, I think it is an extremely enjoyable movie. I have a lot of issues with it. And the thing is to me is like, I always thought the comic book line as far as the Civil Wars never went as hard as I wanted it to. And I really wanted the movies to go harder with it than the comic books. And I feel like they went less than. I never really bought into the, well, I understand Captain America and Iron Man being on the opposite spectrum of something. I understand it more in the lexicon of what happened with Tony's parents' death than it has anything to do with the Sokovia Accords. And that to me was supposed to be the thing that I was supposed to buy into, was that they're splitting the teams based on this thing. And I always thought the Civil War to me felt like a truncated Avengers 2.5, but not as good as those other movies because we didn't spend enough time with the characters to get to that point. The only exception to me is Black Panther, who I think is I love this version of Black Panther than I love in any other version of Black Panther, just because of how stoic and serious he is about what's going on in that movie, where everyone else in that movie are doing nothing but quippy fucking Tony Stark wannabe lines. The fucking airport fight, it's like a montage of jokes. And it feels like there's never any fucking stakes until Rhodey falls out of the fucking sky. Like that, it was just, to me, it never really hit that, it never hit that way that I wanted to. And at the end of the day, I don't know how anybody could watch that movie and not realize that Captain America was just dead right wrong. I want to believe that Captain America could be right about this, but he's not. He's on such the wrong side of it that I don't think that there's any.
That doesn't fucking matter. That does not fucking matter. Because I agree with you. I was all Tony. Tony is like,
there's no other way to be.
I'm fucking rocking with Tony. But actually, I was surprised. Like, if you check socials, a lot of people on Cap's side. I'm like, how? But anyway,
they're
my
Trump
point
voting and they like fascism.
No. About white people. It's crazy.
Hey,
but
Kanye.
like,
Kanye probably loved it.
but no.
Was Mick
I
on
say
Cap's
that,
side,
like-
bro?
Yo, Ye was definitely on Cap's side. But I say that to say, like, that doesn't matter to me. And this is what I mean by, like, when you talk about sliders and stuff like that. Okay, so you kind of point to, like, some of the airport stuff and, like, it's a bunch of jokes and stuff like that. However you enjoy Thor Ragnarok. But we're not going to get into that.
I can get into it. I can absolutely get into it.
No. Let me finish. But I think the airport scene is pure comic book enjoyment for me. It's just, oh, Spider-Man woken him up. Like, it's like, oh, okay, we're joking. And I think that's how they would have, I literally, and this is just my opinion, that's how they would have taken it. If you got superheroes like, hey, we all friends. I'm not really trying to kill you right now. I'm gonna fuck you up, but like we friends, bro. Like I know your mama, I know I know where your daughter at. Like we just in the last movie, we was just like at your mama's crib, Hawkeye. Like I mean at your wife's crib, Hawkeye. Like I ain't even trying to kill you, fam. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna fuck you up though, cause like y'all on some bullshit right now, and I'm trying to do this. I got this mission, and like just chill. Like, but I think they would have taken it like that. They wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been fucking. I'm gonna kill you, boom, boom. Like it's crazy. No, the only thing that changes that, because we're all friends, we're family. The thing that changes that is a serious moment, and the serious moment happened, and the movie was serious from the rest of the movie after it happened. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. You know what, Tony? Tony was like, yo, I was tripping. I was wrong. Let me go help Cap. Black Panther was like, yo, I'm gonna fuck all you niggas up. You white? No, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna fuck all you crackers up. And like, I'm so sick of you. Like you fucking, like you trying to play with me. You think I'm from a third world country, but I'm not. But he was trying to tell them niggas like, yo.
Yeah, here's some beachfront property, Bucky.
Don't play with me. But to your point, I love T'Challa in that movie. I loved the Cap, Falcon, Winter Soldier relationship in that movie. I loved Tony's, like, because it was, and see, one of my issues with your complaint being that, so after Age of Ultron came out, there's a lot of social media criticism about, damn, the Avengers just destroy shit, and like they don't get held accountable for it.
After Man of Steel,
Civil War
it was all
accountable. It was, I'm gonna hold you accountable. You're right. The Russos saw that and said, you're absolutely right. So here's what you've got. We've got the Accord. We got Tony with fucking PTSD. It was a real movie dealing with real emotions, real things that humans can relate to. It was like, oh, okay. Oh, so we're not just action and adventure movies anymore. So, okay. All right. So Age of Ultron, action and adventure, but we're going to give you some depth to it. There's some depth to the
Black
movie.
Mom, I really hate that your black son died. Let me go hire a 15-year-old to go fight.
No. Hold on. We're gonna pause before we get there again, because of the point I made. Like we just playing around. But they gave one of the greatest actresses of the last 30 years, in my opinion, Alfred Woodard, like 5 minutes of her.
She did not get 5 minutes of shit. She got 90 seconds.
And then they put her in Luke Cage and said, hey, we know you also still in the MCU, you in Luke Cage as well. But hey, you in Civil War, you killed that shit, so we're gonna put you in Luke Cage. But anyway, so they let Alfred give you 2 to 3 minutes of her time, and it was just great. Just seeing Alfred. I love it. I feel like she's an underrated actress. I love her. She's amazing. But it's a great movie. I don't have any complaints about Civil War. It's Winter Soldier on steroids to me. Where Winter Soldier is the Manchurian Candidate, Civil War is like if you made a sequel to the Manchurian Candidate.
No, it's Manchurian Candidate directed by Michael Bay.
No. But you know what?
I don't think that's a bad thing either. I don't think Civil War.
Maybe, but I'm not upset at that.
I like Michael Bay. I'm not.
It's bad when I get the reference.
No. Pain and Gain, Michael Bay. It's Pain and Gain, Michael Bay. It's Bad
it's not Ambulance. It's not Ambulance.
It might be Ambulance, Michael Bay. It might be Ambulance, Michael Bay. It might be.
Bro, that was the dumbest fucking movie ever.
It's the worst heist movie. It's not. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. Ambulance is great. It's just you gotta know what you're in for. You gotta know what you're in for.
Stupid.
It's like it's a shittier Den of Thieves. It's a dumber
stupid.
Den of Thieves. Look,
I was gonna say
stupid. It's a dumber Den of Thieves.
See, that's where you're getting on a sliding scale, because Den of Thieves is a dumber Heat.
Well, we're not comparing Den of Thieves to Heat. It's a McDonald's parking lot in the mid 1990s bootleg version of something. Okay, that's what it is.
Bootleg version of Heat.
Yes, they're not comparable fucking movies. Like, all right, look, I understand. I'm not one to say. I watched Civil War today. It's a fun fucking movie. It's really, really fun. And to see all the characters kind of end with each other is a lot of fun. It's just, to me, it feels like an Avengers movie, not a Captain America movie. And I get all the points you're making as far as that goes, but like to me, it's hard for me not to then look at the main chasm that's supposed to exist between Captain America and Iron Man. The reason that chasm exists is the way that we lead ourselves to Infinity War. There's a through line of the guys are separated, which is where Tony blames Steve for in Endgame, which we should have been together. We should have been able to stop this. We should have been able to do all this kind of. Like to me, that through line is Bucky killing his mom and dad. It's not the Sokovia Accords. It's to me, I get the Sokovia Accords being a response to the criticism that happened in the real world with Man of Steel around the same time. Everybody was talking about how they're just killing all kinds of fucking people, and they're not talking about it at all. DC tried to do it in Batman versus Superman when they show the memorial and go through Batman and what he was doing as far as all the 9/11 shit they were trying to bring up with it. I get that real world stuff, but to me, there are better ways to do it than to what it just felt like was a checklist of things to get us on to the next Avengers movie. It's hard for me not to feel that way when watching Civil War. It didn't feel like it was like necessary in the way of the story for Captain America as much as it was a checklist to get us on the next thing, which is where when we talk about like the difference between.
You're weighing it on the scale of like the importance to Captain America.
It's hard for me not to.
And I don't look at it like that.
I know, and that's our fundamental difference. That's our fundamental difference.
What it is. It's like, bro, like you said, it's like a fake Avengers 2.5. It is Avengers 2.5. It is, but they needed to get that story in there. And just it's similar to like the comics where it's like, yo, well, we're gonna tell this story, but we're gonna tell it like in Captain America, even though it's an Avengers story, we're gonna tell you like 6 issues, we're gonna give you Captain America and like so on and so forth, which it was still very much a Captain America story because it was about him getting Bucky back and all that stuff, which is like the entire like his story arc is, you know, but movie 1, Bucky allegedly dies and Cap gets stuck in the iceberg for like what 60 plus years. And then he's frozen and he's stuck there, and then we get him out. Fury gets him out, and now he's a man out of time in Avengers. And then we get him in Cap 2, and it's like, hey, I've kind of caught up. I'm still trying to adjust. I'm learning. Like, I met this guy's name is I'm gonna call him Falcon, Sam. But and so he's telling me to like.
I knew what you wanted to say.
Black Falcon.
Nah,
he's telling me
in
okay, so I'm gonna listen to Marvin Gaye and like a bunch of other stuff and watch some movies because he told me to, because I missed them when I was in sleep for like 50 plus years. And then, but in the third one, you get okay, like because in the second one he finds out Bucky's still alive. Third one he goes and gets Bucky and he saves Bucky.
That's but my thing with that is that like to me there is a Captain America 3 that exists with a storyline between Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man behind the past of what happened with what Bucky did to his parents. That to me is a self-contained, awesome movie. The Sokovia Accords in response to what was happening on social media, the checklist filling as far as we need to introduce Spider-Man before he gets his movie, we need to introduce Black Panther before he gets his movie, we got to introduce these guys before they get their movie just to do it, always felt cheapening to me. That's just to me. Like Civil War to me should have been like in the comic books, Captain America being the through line with Civil War is because he's the first one to really step out and say, I'm not doing this. And the reason he wasn't doing this is they were arresting fucking Supes. And he dies at the end.
I would agree with this. I think you would agree with this. It would have also felt like a disservice if they didn't show Cap with the Avengers, because Avengers Age of Ultron ends with him saying, I'm the leader of the Avengers. This is my new team, and so on and so forth.
Not denying that. But no Black Panther and no Spider-Man. No Black Panther, no Black Panther, no Spider-Man.
You're talking about fucking 90 seconds of Alfred. We get 5 minutes of Spider-Man. It's not like he's in the whole fucking movie. He's in 3 scenes.
It's a weird way to introduce this really big character for this thing that I didn't think served it perfectly. That's just me. It's like, if we're gonna do Spider-Man, then like after Tony's now having this issue with he just saw a dead fucking kid, I'm gonna go hire a kid because we're play fighting? Like what the fuck is that?
All right. I get your point with Spider-Man, but I did like the introduction of Black Panther.
I thought the introduction of Black Panther kind of fits. The only thing,
Yeah.
then it's like, but then when I look at him, like Zemo, other than blowing up King T'Challa, kind of right. Zemo was kind of right. Iron Man's totally fucking right. I didn't get the stakes as far as some of the conversation stuff. I just didn't.
Oh. Outside of that, I just like the introduction of Black Panther.
So, but my grand thing with this,
I went out and bought that suit.
Were you role playing?
I got James Bond suit and Black Panther suit.
At the end of the day, the only reason I'm putting going back to the rankings, the only reason I have Guardians above it is that I don't think that there has not been a bad movie, in my opinion, in the Guardians. And that to me is important. And I understand if somebody says from Winter Soldier and Civil War that they so far outreach anything that Guardians is doing, I can respect it. I'm just looking at the trilogy and saying there's no bad movie.
That is my point. Listen, because I'm in agreement with you. I don't enjoy Cap. Cap is the only movie that I haven't seen from front to back, like all the way. Like I've seen the bits and pieces of it. The first, like Captain America: First Avenger, I've seen bits and pieces of it and enough of it to make it the entire movie, but I've never seen it from front to back in one sitting. I've seen it, but not from front to back in one sitting because it's a shit movie in my opinion. So, but that's
I don't
also
respect Captain America.
I also haven't seen like other movies like 1917 and a couple other like period pieces because I don't like the aesthetics of the period pieces from like the 1900s to like, let's say.
Did you like Wonder Woman?
Outside of that one, I love Wonder Woman's good. And maybe it's because Gal Gadot is something to look at. I can't explain it for you. But
not after that fucking pandemic video, she didn't know.
Imagine all the people.
That's nothing to do with me. It's none of my business.
Nah, that's your business. So you need to watch that shit 5 times in a row and tell me how you feel again.
No, you just watch Wonder Woman 1984. She might never make another movie.
I stay away from things I won't like. I enjoy the Cap trilogy more than I enjoy the Guardians trilogy because I view the Guardians trilogy how KDot views the Spider-Man trilogy. Guardians trilogy is just good. It's just good. It's two good movies and one great movie. And the Cap series, in my opinion, you got 2 of the greatest movies in the MCU, 2 top 5 movies, 1 shit movie. So in my opinion, it's like if you were to rate it, it's like you got 2 105 and a 60, and in Guardians you got 2 80s and a 95.
Bruh.
And
did you do the math?
No.
Yeah,
bruh.
Thank you, prick.
But I didn't do the math, but I mean, I was just giving a comparison. I'm not saying like explicitly, but anyway. So
no, break that shit down. So 2 105s,
no
160,
no,
bruh, that's 270. And then he said, what was the other one you said? What's that other shit you said?
No, it might work out in a second.
Do it. 95. What's the math?
The only thing I'm laughing at is that he clearly didn't do the math. James overreacted to him not doing the math, and now you guys are actually doing the math. It's the only thing I found funny.
Now do it. No, now do it. What's the math take out?
What did you say?
2 80s and a 95 versus 2 105 and a 65.
Yeah, it's 250 something or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's right. It's just, was just funny. No, what was funny was that he wasn't confident in it until he could do the math in enough time that took you to jump back to your shit.
Motherfucker. It doesn't matter.
That shit was still fucking funny.
Right.
All right, the only other thing I want to say in defense of, you said something that I wanted to react to, which is you were saying I was being a hypocrite as far as the humor thing in Ragnarok. The reason I look at Ragnarok's humor and the way I look at Guardians' humor is, to me, Ragnarok's humor, for the most part, is of the people that are on this planet. What the fuck is it called? With Jeff Goldblum. What they're doing and the craziness that is occurring there on the planet, majority of the humor comes from Thor being a fish out of water, reacting to things happening. that he doesn't necessarily expect or think. And that to me is humor in one way. Guardians of the Galaxy it's like a comedy fucking troupe in the sense that you have the straight guy, this, that, and the other, and the humor is very varied in the way they fucking do it. There's some Sam Raimi-ness to it too. Like even in this movie, there were some disgusting fucking parts. In every Guardians movie, there's some disgusting fucking parts that end up being pretty funny. To me, the reason that I don't like most of the MCU is that it's not varied humor. It feels like watching Family Guy sometimes from a comedy standpoint. Everyone's doing the exact same bit across the board. It doesn't feel like there's any variation of it. And I don't like the fact that you get to certain points where Captain America looks like he's taking scripting cues from Iron Man. It's weird. Doctor Strange should not sound like Iron Man. It's weird. Why is everybody being so quippy in that way? The only character that I think, from a humor standpoint, that sets out of it is Spider-Man. Because he is a young, quippy kid, and he loves using references and stuff. I think they nail that, but beyond that, there's not a lot that I love as far as the way they handle humor. I just think everybody's just copying the same thing. There should be never a circumstance where Doctor Strange sounds like Tony Stark. They're two very different people.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, are we done?
Yeah, that shit was funny.
Yeah.
All right, so this, who is hosting this? I guess we didn't really have a host.
Yeah, and I like it.
All right, there we go. Guardians Volume 3, easily a top 10 movie. There we go. And you've heard Unequal Opinions. It's got our endorsement.
Yeah.